it is time for a chat with Pat, and it's Thursday, so it's Joni. Go Pack Go. I don't know. Whatever.
I just want to know, Dave, is that from what? What was that show?
That's from Happy Days.
Happy Days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Happy Days.
Yes.
Are here
Okay.
again.
Joni and Potsy. There is. Don't call me Potsy.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
That's
right.
all I want to go
Just
by.
don't jump the shark. Whatever you do, don't
That's
jump
right.
the shark.
Trust me, Joni can never jump the shark. She is good. Yes, our guest today is Joan Watson. She is a writer and a speaker, and she is amazing. I always call her my scripture scholar. Welcome, Joni. How you doing?
It's good to be here. I'm doing well, Pat. Thanks.
Good. And so nice to hear your voice full and ready to go, you know?
It's right. It's back.
It's back. It's back. So, Joni, we are still in the month of November, and I really did want to try to, sometime through this month, find time to talk to you about the whole idea of eschatology in the scripture, because certainly, we start off with All Saints Day, All Souls Day, and so we really get this taste of this is a temporary life. So how do we kind of turn to scripture to help us understand what we're made for and where we're supposed to be going?
Yeah, so it's a huge topic. When you said, let's talk about eschatology in Scripture, I'm like, oh, goodness. I don't know if I'm the person to do this morning. But we can touch on it a little bit.
We can keep talking about it, too, Joni, for weeks. You're on every Thursdays.
So it's interesting because, Scripture actually has kind of a progressive revelation of sorts on eschatology and on the view of death, because we start early on, with this kind of Judaism understanding of death. And even today, Judaism has no consensus on the afterlife, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. So I think we want to be careful. I always get nervous when people are like, oh, Judaism teaches X, Y, Z, because there's a lot of differences in different sects of Judaism and Orthodoxy. And so even back in Scripture, we see kind of this progressive understanding of what exactly death is. In the Torah, we don't see explicit mention of the afterlife. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Sadducees at the time of Jesus didn't believe in the resurrection. But then in the historical books, we begin to see, people are raised from the dead. Elijah raises somebody from the dead. Mm-hmm. And so we begin to see this idea that there is life after death. Mm-hmm. And you go through Job and you go through Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a whole other interesting topic, because Ecclesiastes seems to really wrestle with what's the point of life.
Yes.
What is the point of what are we doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ecclesiastes really is searching for Christ and for this fulfillment of what is life for. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, we see as we get closer, things like Tobit and Daniel and wisdom literature, Sirach, there's this idea that there's something more than just this life. Then we see in Maccabees, which our Jewish brothers and sisters believe that happened historically but don't have in their canon, we have this explicit recognition that there's an understanding that we can pray for the dead in Second Maccabees. And then, of course, we have the Christian view coming out of the New Testament, and this idea in Romans that we will suffer and die. This life is passing, but because Christ has died, there's hope. And so the New Testament really is marked with this hope of life everlasting after death, because this life isn't all there is, and we are living for something more. And so that's all throughout, of course, the teachings of Christ, and then the New Testament with the writings of Paul.
So, Joni, you mentioned Maccabees, and I tend to think that a lot of people that are not Catholic, and even Catholics, struggle with this concept of purgatory. Now, I didn't ask you to point particularly to that today, but is Maccabees where we find more of our understanding of purgatory, or are there other places in Scripture that gives us this understanding of purgatory?
I think there are a lot of other references. Of course, we never find the word purgatory,
right.
Just like we don't find the word Trinity, right?
Exactly.
But we have references to this idea of purgatory. And really, and Maccabees is one of them, but you can find it other places. The Church Fathers point to Revelation. The Church Fathers point to even Old Testament verses like Isaiah or the Psalms, where we talk about purification through fire.
Right.
And so there's this, it's the idea of the need for purification is throughout all of Scripture. That only, once we understand heaven as a place of goodness and a place where we see God, only the pure can see God face to face, right?
Mm-hmm,
and so
right.
we have these references to purification and this need for purification, this judgment, throughout. It's just never named as purgatory.
Right.
One of my favorite is even in the New Testament is Christ talks about how you'll be thrown into prison until you've paid the last penny in Matthew 5. And the church fathers saw this idea in Matthew 5 of like, okay, you're going to be thrown into this prison. What is this prison? You're going to get out of this prison once you've paid the last penny, which in a sense, a penny isn't a lot, right?
Right.
And so it's this idea of you're going to be let out of purgatory once you are purified, once you have, paid the debt of your sin, once you are ready for heaven. I think in a sense, purgatory just makes sense when we really look at it, whether, we don't have the word purgatory in Scripture, but it makes sense that when we die, we're not fully purified. And so there's a need to get cleaned up before we go to heaven.
Yeah, I've never struggled with purgatory because it's exactly how I understand it. The idea is that I need to be made pure. I need to be made perfect in a sense before I can enter into that relationship, that total relationship with God.
And it's a mercy. I mean, I think sometimes people see it's this punishment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a mercy that I'm not absolutely ready for heaven at this very moment.
Yeah.
And so it can be a great mercy that God's giving me that chance to be pure so I can be happy in heaven.
Right. I love that. Joni. I'm going back to Maccabees just for one reason, Joni, is because, during this month, people start to think, oh, yeah, I want to have a mass said for so-and-so who's died or so-and-so who's died. And I've heard people say that is attached to Maccabees, or is it Ezekiel? I forget which one. Is it both?
It's probably in Maccabees. I mean, there is in Maccabees 12. The soldiers have fallen, and Judas Maccabeus realizes one of the reasons. So the soldiers have died in battle, and he finds amulets on them. He finds good luck tokens, amulets to the gods, and he realizes, these men have sinned, but they're dead. And what he does is he makes a sacrifice for them, for the sins. And it specifically says, guided by his belief in the resurrection. This is Maccabees 12:44. For if he had not expected those who had fallen to rise again, it would have been superfluous and foolish to pray for the dead.
Right.
So, they committed this sin, and he doesn't know. Are they going to hell? Are they going to heaven? I am going to make a sacrifice on their behalf. I'm going to pray for them in hopes that they can go to heaven. And so it's very explicitly in 2 Maccabees 12, whereas it's mentioned other places in other ways, but very explicitly there, where Judas Maccabeus essentially prays for them, makes a sacrifice for them because of their sins.
So, Joni, the sense of heaven and resurrection and a glorified body, any insights for us in Scripture? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so the only real thing we can point to is Christ's resurrected body, right? And we talked about that a little bit when we were talking about my book. Right. We don't know what the resurrection looks like. People have had, obviously Christ has come back to appear, to saints, and Mary has come, and people have had, maybe visions of loved ones. But essentially none of us, eye has not seen, ear has not heard what heaven has in store for us.
Yeah.
We have some clues from that resurrection of Christ. That there will be, the ability to pass through walls and things, but we won't see that resurrection of the body till the end of time.
Yeah.
And then we'll be happy in heaven with him, hopefully forever.
Yeah. Joni, thank you. You can cram a lot in a little bit of time, and I appreciate that. Hopefully we can continue some of these conversations. Thanks, Joni. Have a good weekend ahead.
I love it. Thanks, Pat. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.